Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name's Bill Welker. You are listening to episode number 81. It is Tuesday, February 20th. We're a couple of days late here because the UFC card was on Sunday night. We usually record on Sundays, so we had to push this back a couple of days. I'm joined all the way in New Jersey by my co-host, Jeff Yanimal Wilson. Jeff, how you doing on this Tuesday evening?
I'm awesome, Bill, and it is surprisingly warm in New Jersey today. It was a high of 70, so really nice to have. I think we are overdue.
It's getting close to the temperature where I can come visit. It's not there yet, but yeah, we're up in the 80s down here now, so this is like the perfect time of year, I think. So a lot of MMA action going on, and I was drinking quite a few different things over the weekend, but I don't have anything too exciting, just like some more beers, some more of those Stone IPAs. And then I was drinking vodka during the UFC. I figured, it's a Sunday. I better lighten things up a little bit because normally I'm drinking whiskey and heavy beers during these cards. So I'm like, all right, let me switch up to vodka. I don't have anything that exciting for you guys. It's this Froggy Bee vodka. It's super cheap shit. I could say that because they're not a sponsor. But it has like this frog in a tuxedo on the label, and it says it's imported from France, and it's organic. Which, if you're buying alcohol that's not organic, I think that's a problem because it's usually just made out of corn or potatoes or like vegetables. So, or sugar. So I don't see why alcohol wouldn't be organic. But anyway, the reason I bring it up, because I know it's not that interesting. It's just a regular off the shelf vodka. The bottle kind of caught my eye, and I don't drink vodka that much, so I guess it's tolerable for a vodka. So what I did, Jeff, I had some friends come over who have some older kids a couple of weeks ago. I think the oldest was like 10 or so. So as a good host, I stocked my fridge with some, child-friendly snacks and stuff like that. So I got a box of Capri Sun, which is a throwback to my childhood. I don't know about yours, Jeff. Is that a throwback to your childhood?
It is indeed.
So I get the Capri Sun, got to go fruit punch because, what else? I remember they did High C was the other one when I was a kid. That was the other diabetes maker. They used to make the Ghostbusters flavor, the Ecto Cooler. I was really into Ghostbusters as a kid. So anyway, I have all this Capri Sun in my fridge, and I open the fridge and I'm like looking for something to throw in this vodka just to take the vodka taste out of it. And I see the Capri Sun and I was like, why have I never thought about this before? So I cut open a bag of the Capri Sun. I put it in a rocks glass with some ice, and I mix it with the Froggy Bee vodka. And I don't know. I had a Froggy Capri Sun martini. I don't know what you would call it, but probably one of the most white trash drinks I could have made. Vodka and Capri Sun. But I got to tell you, Jeff, it wasn't bad. It's a lot of sugar. I don't like a lot of sugar, but it was like the throwback, like mixed with the alcohol. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a weird combination. I feel like it's something like a pedophile would drink because like the vodka doesn't show up on your breath. So you just smell like Capri Sun, but you're still drunk.
Sounds terrible. The pedophile metaphor was bad, but I'm all for this Capri Sun and vodka. It actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad if you got it, lying around if you have kids or whatever. I don't know if I'll go out of my way to do this, but because I had the ingredients, I threw it together. So I offer that information to you. All right, so lots of MMA action over the weekend. Let's start with the Bellator card from Friday night, which seems like it was 9 years ago. And this was in Uncasville, Connecticut at the Mohegan Sun Arena. This is an arena that the UFC has outgrown for some time now. It's a smaller one. It's inside a casino, obviously. So the headline was Matt Mitrione and Roy Nelson. This was a rematch. They fought in the UFC. Roy Nelson won. And the rest of the card had, I guess, some of their bigger stars on it: Patricky Pitbull, Liam McGeary, and then like some of their sideshow freaks. And this is where I think Bellator still hasn't gotten it right. First of all, they're doing these cards on Friday nights. Nobody's watching on Friday nights. And there was no UFC this Saturday, so I don't understand, why they wouldn't book a venue to do this on a Saturday, or even try to compete with the UFC a little bit. And they have half a roster of legitimate fighters, and then they have half a roster of like guys with 1 or 2 fights that they're trying to build up. You got Anthony Pico, Taiwan Claxton, who fought on Friday night, had a pretty impressive performance. Heather Hardy, who is like the real life Harley Quinn. She's like walking daddy issues. So I don't know. Did you have any interest in this card when you saw it, Jeff? I know you caught the main event, but did anything pique your interest when you looked at the rest of this, or did you even look at it?
No, I wasn't into this card at all, actually. The only fight I saw was Matt Mitrione versus Roy Nelson, and I'm still wondering how the judges gave that one to Mitrione. I was really surprised by that decision.
Yeah, I was kind of at the time also, but Mitrione's stand-up did look really, really good. Roy Nelson couldn't really do much on the feet because he couldn't get inside. Mitrione did a good job of keeping distance and keeping Roy on the outside. And when Roy did get inside, he was able to secure some takedowns. He wasn't able to do much with those takedowns until the 3rd round, when he was able to get Mitrione in that crucifix position. And I heard an argument that said that Mitrione won the first 2 rounds because of the striking and because Roy didn't do anything with the takedowns when he landed them. And the only reason, I forget who it was, I think it was Brendan Schaub, the only reason that he thought the decision could have gone differently is if Roy Nelson got a 10-8 round in the 3rd because of that crucifix position, in which case it would have been a draw. I'm not mad at that argument. I don't really care about the outcome of this. I was excited when they first announced a Bellator heavyweight tournament because I thought it was something that they really needed. But then they announced the fighters, and half of them aren't even legitimate heavyweights. And then this thing has really had the steam let out of it, especially because if you do the math, we're not going to know who the heavyweight champion is until like April of next year. By the time they get through all these things, and then it's older guys, so there's going to be injuries. So it's like, how long can you keep It's almost like if they were advertising Christmas like now in February, like, get your Christmas shopping done, people. I'm like, fuck off. I don't do my Christmas shopping till December 23rd. Leave me alone. So I see what they were trying to do, but it just kind of lost all of its luster to me. I don't know if you feel the same, Jeff.
Yeah, I feel like the wind kind of got knocked out of this tournament's sails. We got Frank Mir in there, and Frank Mir hasn't looked the same in years, man. Even towards the end of his UFC career, he got in a really bad motorcycle accident at one point, and after that, he just didn't look like the same guy. We have Fedor in there. I mean, Fedor's up there in years, man. So
Yeah. It's like you're almost worried about watching them fight now. It's like when kids are playing around like an expensive vase. It's like you think it's just gonna crash to the ground into a million pieces, and it's like an antique that's been in the family for years. Arguably one of the greatest fighters ever. So, some people still say the greatest because of when Fedor was in his heyday, he seemed invincible. So I think because that curtain has been lifted and it was done in such a way that was kind of shitty, like he never made it to the UFC because of some politics and managers and a bunch of drama and money. And then he wound up losing in Strikeforce, I think, to Fabricio Verdum, and then Dan Henderson knocked him out, who's really a middleweight. So anyway, I didn't really care about which way the decision went. I didn't have a dog in that race. I feel like it would even be better if they at least did like the fights on the same side of the bracket in the same night. So that way, they could, or at least have the guys in the arena so they could like bring them in the cage after. Maybe they'll do that as it gets a little further, but all these fights are on different nights. So it's like, it's too spread out for me. I just can't get excited about it. So Patricky Pitbull, with a pretty nasty knockout of Derek Campos, knocked him out in the first round. I don't really know what that does for him, if it gets him close to a title shot in the lightweight division. I know he's been, a staple of the Bellator lightweight division since Bellator has been a thing. It was an impressive performance, but then they get him on the microphone and it was just a shit show. He couldn't promote himself. He couldn't call out the champion. I can't even remember the champion's name off the top of my head. But yeah, I remember for a while he used to be one of the most marketable guys. But there's that. He had an impressive performance. And then he had Heather Hardy in there, who had a loss in her last fight. She's 1-1 going into this, and they still put so much marketing behind her. I understand she's a personality and she has a lot of professional boxing experience, and they put her in there with a girl who was 2-3, I guess. And then this fight wound up being a grappling match. The other girl was a boxer too. And then they wound up grappling like the whole time. And there was no finish. So Heather Hardy won a decision, which I'm sure Bellator is stoked about. But yeah, it still kind of baffles me how they do have legit fighters like Patricky Pitbull. He's probably at one point could have been ranked in the top 10 lightweights. But then, on the same card, you have Heather Hardy, who's coming in at 1-1, and you're putting marketing dollars behind this. So it's like they can't get away from the sideshow stuff that got them a lot of attention in the first place. Ken Shamrocks and Hoist Gracie and Dada 5000. I don't want to say Kimbo, because I feel like Kimbo did actually prove himself a little bit when he went through the Ultimate Fighter and everything like that, and he had some decent showings. Like, he at least belonged in there. But I don't know, just this. It's hard to take them serious. Like, how much does a belt mean in an organization that's putting on like these sideshow fights? I understand you want to build up fighters, but put them on the undercard. Let them get a few fights under their belt, and then I don't know. So Liam McGeary taking a loss to Vadim Nemkov. He got stopped with leg kicks, and it was pretty nasty. And when he went down, he could not get back up. So a good stoppage by Dan Miragliotta. And then the only other thing I'd talk about is Taiwan Claxton knocked out his opponent. These guys both had under 3 professional fights, I think. So I wouldn't put either of them in there with anybody who has experience, but it was entertaining for what it was. It was a nasty elbow knockout. So overall, not an incredibly exciting card, but it was all right. I watched it Saturday morning while I was drinking my coffee. I didn't stay up to watch this on Friday night. I was like, I have other things to do. So I just stayed off social media, and I did Bellator Saturday morning. Any other thoughts on Bellator before we move on, Jeff?
No, I was just a little surprised to see that Liam McGeary lost, former light heavyweight champion. He's beaten Tito Ortiz before, so I might have to go back and watch that one.
Yeah, it seems like I guess Phil Davis kind of knocked the wind out of his sails a little bit. And, Nemkov was pretty impressive. I hadn't heard of him before, but he's got some real nasty leg kicks. Young kid, Russian, only 25 years old. He's 9-2 now. So McGeary is the first name that I recognize on his record, but he could be somebody to look out for. the light heavyweight division is pretty weak across all the organizations. We've talked about this several times, Jeff. So, pretty good cards Sunday night. The Sunday night cards kind of kill me because it's tough to stay up for them and then get up for work the next day drinking vodka and Capri Suns. So it's not a good start to the week for me, but it was a good end to the weekend. So UFC Fight Night 126 from Austin, Texas, headlined by Donald Cowboy Cerrone and Yancy Medeiros. Kind of an awkward start to this main event. So at the weigh-in, Yancy gives Cowboy a cowboy hat, and then before the fight, they high five and hug, and then they hug after an exchange. After Yancy gets knocked down or falls down and gets back up, they hug again, and it was kind of distracting and kind of weird. I'm all for sportsmanship, but maybe save it for after the fight. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Jeff?
Yeah, I thought it was cool, the hat at the weigh-ins, but yeah, I agree with you. The hug in the middle of the cage was a little weird, especially, either one of them could have popped the other one and kind of ruin it there. But overall, I was really impressed with Donald Cerrone, man. He's been in this game a while, and he just showed this young lion that it's not easy to get to the top.
Yeah, for sure. It was a risky fight for both guys because Cowboy is coming off a 3-fight losing streak. Granted, it's all against top tier competition, but still a 3-fight losing streak. Usually that puts most people out of the UFC, and somehow he still manages to headline a card because he's one of the most popular fighters on the roster for good reason. He's got a marketable personality. He sells his fights on his own social media and everything like that. His out of the cage lifestyle is admirable. And Yancy was a pretty quick turnaround for him. It was an exciting fight, but Donald Cerrone, who's notoriously a slow starter, once he got in his rhythm, it was pretty much all over. It was downhill for Yancy. So I don't think this is the end of the road for Yancy Medeiros whatsoever. He's still a young kid. He still puts on really exciting fights. I think he's really starting to get some mainstream recognition. And he was on a 3-fight winning streak going into this. He had what was a candidate for fight of the year against Cowboy Oliveira in December. It was a quick turnaround for him. The thing is, the point a lot of people have been making is that once Cowboy gets comfortable in there, like if he gets friendly and buddy with you, that's when he turns it up. But if someone's in there who hates him, then that's when he backs down a little bit. So if he's able to be the bully and dictate the pace, that's when he does his best. And when someone else bullies him and gets in his face, that's when he kind of cracks a little bit. That's what we saw when he fought Darren Till, when he fought Nate Diaz, when he fought Jorge Masvidal. Same story, different co-star. Any other thoughts on this main event? The other thing I want to point out is that after the fight, Yancy Medeiros showed some awesome sportsmanship and class when he jumped over the cage to hug Cowboy Cerrone's grandmother, who has been part of Cowboy's story for a long time. She raised him and she's been his biggest fan forever. So I thought that was a really cool moment. I could have done without all the displays of affection leading up to the fight, but afterwards, I like to see stuff like that. Any other thoughts on this main event, Jeff?
Yeah, dude, it was awesome seeing Yancy Medeiros go up to Cowboy's grandma, give her a hug. That was really nice. And I'm like you, I enjoy a little bit of smack talking before the fight, leading up to it, and then I love seeing these guys hug it out afterwards. And Bill, I got a question for you. Where do you see Donald Cerrone? Because he says he wants to go back down to lightweight, but he has been looking great at welterweight despite his 3 losses.
Yeah, I don't like the move back down to lightweight, and I would like to see him stay at welterweight. I wouldn't say he looks like he's put on weight, but he has filled out. He's at that age where it's going to be really tough. I know it wasn't that hard of a cut for him, but it's been a couple of years since he's been down at lightweight. his last fight at lightweight was in December of 2015 against Rafael dos Anjos. So the difference, I can tell you personally, the difference between 32 and 34 in terms of your body's ability to shed weight is much different. You just kind of fill out a little bit more. You start developing muscle in places that you didn't have before, and your body just retains water differently. It's just one of those transitional ages. So I don't like that move for him, although there are some really exciting fights down there. Yeah, there's always the Khabib fight that never happened. They had a lot of drama back in the day. I would like to see that come together, but then it's only a matter of time before Khabib moves up to welterweight because he can't stay at lightweight forever. So I'd like to see him stay at welterweight. I don't know what I would give him next. Maybe, maybe Stephen Thompson, something like that. If he doesn't have anything lined up, that would be kind of a fun fight. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I like the Stephen Thompson scenario. I would love to see him get it on with Khabib, but I think Cerrone would make the weight. I don't know if Khabib would.
Mm-hmm.
Khabib's had a lot of weight problems in the past, too much tiramisu and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bill, I think we can move on a little bit to a division that we've said is looking a little stale, but it got a little bit of a new breath of life here with Derrick Lewis knocking out Marcin Tybura in the third round in the co-main event with TKO, and it was looking a little dire for him. I'm not gonna lie to you, Bill. In the first couple rounds, I thought he won the first round. The second round, I think Tybura's grappling really showed, and Derrick Lewis, I think he really needs to work off his back because he looked like he was in a lot of trouble there.
Yeah, the thing that he does, besides going deep in his wife after fights, he always has the best post-fight speeches.
Yeah.
I'm going deep in my wife. But something that he does is when he gets taken down, he'll rest in bad positions. He'll let guys stay in side control or even take his back. He did the same thing with Roy Nelson. And then once he rested, he just bench pressed Roy off of him. And that's pretty much what he did with Marcin Tybura. He kind of rested in those bad positions and he would kind of swat away punches, like not take any real damage. And he would explode when he wanted to get up. And he conserved his energy. I think he said to his corner at one point, it's going to be a long night because I feel really lethargic out here. I don't feel like doing this. And we know that's been a problem for him in the past, his fight against Mark Hunt, where he just completely ran out of gas. I mean, the stoppage came not because he couldn't continue, but because he couldn't breathe. uh, it's not like he was knocked out or anything. He was just so winded he couldn't fight anymore. So conditioning is a problem for the Black Beast. I mean, he cuts weight to make heavyweight. Awesome knockout. He has dynamite in that right hand. I think it could put down any heavyweight in the division if he connects the right way, but he will have trouble against those upper level guys. If he gets in there with Verdum or with Stipe, they're going to give him fits on the ground. They're not going to let him just rest on the ground. Those are guys that are going to beat his ass once they get him down to the mat. So that's a problem for him. I would really like to see him in Ngannou. Him and Overeem would be really fun. And I'd like to see Tybura get back in there too. I think he really showed his toughness in his fight with Verdum. I think it was 5 rounds he went with Fabricio Verdum's former world champion. So he definitely proved his mettle there. He's a really tough guy. And I think he is what the heavyweight division needs because he's a good grappler, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. He's 32, which is a spring chicken for this heavyweight division at the time. And let's see. Yeah, it was 5 rounds that he went with Verdum. He's got wins over Arlovsky, which I don't know how much that says these days. It depends which Arlovsky shows up, but exciting kid. We got a lot of good fighters coming out of Poland, so I thought it was a great fight. Really exciting. Any other thoughts on this one, Jeff?
Yeah, dude, I just want to say one last thing about Derrick Lewis. He looked impressive when he got that knockout because it was a little bit of grappling that he showed. He kind of took Tabora to the ground really quick, and then as Tabora was getting up in that separation is when Derrick Lewis connected with a left hand that rocked him, and then the right hand dropped him. So I was really impressed with that, just that chaining of different situations with grappling, and then as they're separating, you hit as you're separating. I've always been impressed by that. I feel like that's such an intricate nuance in the fight game, and people who are really good at it, they usually can hurt you in those transitions. And Derrick Lewis, he looked good. I'd like to see him actually go up against Curtis Blades next. I know he was thinking of fighting him. And as for Tabora, I'd actually like to see him take on Ngannou since they're both coming off of losses. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think there's a lot of good combinations you can do with this heavyweight division, which is awesome. And you got a couple of younger guys that are coming up too, Chase Sherman and things like that. So, once they work their way up to being in the top 10, we could actually have some interesting things going on in this division. In the meantime, we'll have Daniel Cormier come up and mix things up. So the fight before that, not too exciting. James Vick and Francisco Trinaldo, who I realized last night, Francisco Trinaldo looks like the dad from the Wayans brothers. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you're old enough for the Wayans brothers, Jeff, but the crazy dad that owned the the little
the diner, I think it was.
Yeah, the diner next to the newspaper stand.
Yes,
that was in a train station or a bus station. I can't remember. I know every episode took place on this one set, and I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, not much to say about this fight. Pretty clear victory for James Vick. He kept the distance, which is pretty easy to do when you're 6'3" and 155 pounds. And then at the end, he's like, nobody wants to fight me. I would have finished this fight, but I dislocated my pinky, which I'm sure is really painful. I've never done it. He's like, I dislocated my pinky, and he saw it, and then he tried to capitalize, so I had to just hold him at bay. It's like, all right, dude, come on. Vitor Belfort broke John Jones's arm, and then he submitted him. Don't use the pinky as an excuse for why you didn't finish a fight. James Vick is a bad motherfucker, 9-1 in the UFC. You don't need to be making excuses for why you didn't finish, guys. So other than that, any other thoughts on this fight, Jeff?
Yeah, dude, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that James Vick fought the right way, used his length, kept Trinaldo away from him, and Trinaldo just couldn't find an answer for him, which I imagine would have been hard. He was like a foot shorter than Vick, so
yeah, and that's tough to get in there. It was he just couldn't close the distance. But in any case, I'll let you introduce the next fight here, Jeff, on the card.
Yeah, so the previous fight was at welterweight division. Curtis Melender versus Thiago Alves, who, Bill, I forgot Thiago Alves was a person, much less a UFC fighter. I mean,
yeah.
Oh God, this dude hasn't fought in a year or something.
Yeah, his last win was against Patrick Cote, I think last January or something like that. And Cote retired that night, and I kind of just assumed Alves did too. And then the UFC tweeted, I found out later it was a Twitter takeover by Elias Theodoru, but they tweeted something about, it was a GIF with Robert Downey Jr. and it said something about Alves, but it spelled his name wrong. I was like, even the UFC forgot that Thiago Alves exists. But in any case, impressive performance by Curtis Melender. But, a young, hungry lion against, a post-USADA Thiago Alves who's just kind of hanging around still. I feel like it's just awkward that he's still here. You know, it was the match with Patrick Cote. Cote retired afterwards. Thiago should have too. And I was listening to the Fighter and the Kid today, and Brendan Schaub was like, Thiago Alves is like 49. So, and it kind of seems that way. Jeff, do you know how old he is?
I have no idea, dude.
He's 34 fucking years old.
Oh God, he didn't. He looked a lot older, actually.
Dude, I don't know if he's like the Elian Gonzalez, like they lied about his age to get him in the youth MMA league. Like, but yeah, I thought he was definitely way older because it feels like he's been fighting forever. But no, 34 years old. He's the same age as Cowboy Cerrone. In any case, Melender had an impressive performance, almost knocked Thiago out in the first round and then kind of walked away. He was being courteous to live up to his nickname. But Jacob Montalvo, the referee, did not stop it at that point. And Melender got criticized for that. I didn't think it was that bad that he didn't want to follow up because, you know, what would happen is Thiago Alves would just get battered and knocked out anyway in the second round. Any other thoughts on this one, Jeff?
Yeah, I thought his celebration was a little premeditated. It was a little too early, but hey, man, he looked impressive in there. He was hitting Thiago Alves with some hard shots, using his reach advantage. He looked good in the striking department.
Yeah, for sure. I thought his striking was really impressive. He had a really diverse array of strikes. Supposedly, he's got a great wrestling background as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him get back in there pretty quick. I'll skip around a little bit. Sage Northcutt. Let's see. I don't really have too much of an opinion about Sage Northcutt, and he's the kind of fighter that people love him or hate him. And I know the UFC has really gotten behind him because he has this look like Zach Morris and AC Slater's love child. I mean, the kid, he could definitely be a model of some kind. Smart kid, super nice, really skilled martial artist, but not the most well-rounded mixed martial arts fighter. So I don't really know what to do with him from here. You know, he won the unanimous decision. It was a little bit controversial because he got taken down and beaten up a little bit. And a lot of people were saying it was like a robbery, but then you look at the statistics. He outstruck Thibault Gouti, I think 111 to 29 or something ridiculous like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a lot to a little, Jeff. But you know, people were going on complaining because they hate this guy. Like, people really hate him for some reason. I don't know if it's like a jealousy thing because he's, you know, he's a good looking kid, he's fit and everything, and maybe he doesn't have the skills to be there, so he doesn't really deserve to be in the UFC. So he has a lot of haters. I'm not necessarily one of them. I don't really care. You know, he's getting in there and putting it on the line and fighting. What were your thoughts on this fight, Jeff?
Yeah, but I caught this one in bits and pieces. I felt like Sage Northcutt kind of won out there and got the job done. Another day at the office for him. I think he's got a lot of potential, a lot of talent. I would just like to see him improve that grappling game, dude. It's been a weakness that's been, it's been utilized a lot by other fighters. You know, his loss to Mickey Gall came from the lack of a grappling game. But yeah, dude, I don't understand the hate. I mean, Sage Northcutt, he's a good kid, man. You know, he calls Uriah Faber Mr. Faber.
Yeah,
Starts talking about Jesus after his fight. He's a nice kid, man. I don't understand the hate, but yeah, dude, just the fact that he calls Uriah Faber Mr. Faber cracks me up, man. There's this episode of Joe Rogan's podcast where he's got Uriah Faber on it, and Uriah Faber says, "Dude, you can stop calling me Mr. Faber."
Yeah, that is pretty hilarious. But he's a really respectful kid, and I mean, the problem is, like, what can you do with him? Because the fact of the matter is, he's 10-2, and he's 21 years old. He's a marketing dream. but he doesn't have the skills to compete with the top level fighters. I mean, if you put him in there with Khabib and he's dead, like he'll 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 Khabib Khabib would pound him through the mat. I mean, look what he did to guys like Edson Barbosa, who's a beast on the ground, according to his training partners. He ragdolled him. He ragdolled Rafael dos Anjos, who's huge lightweight. So yeah, the grappling thing, and he does have time, but the problem is he's already been in there and had so much hype around him. How long can you keep him at this level and give him feeder fights? Like there's like an awkward period here because he probably needs 3 or 4 years to develop the grappling skills to be able to hang in the top 10 or the top 5 or the top 15 even of that division. But he's already so well known and so marketable that you have to, you have to leverage that when you're marketing these cards. But how many tomato cans can you put in front of the guy before people start to catch on? The other thing about his stand-up too, since he comes from that karate style, he doesn't throw enough volume, so he moves in and out really quickly, but he only lands 1 or 2 shots. So over time, they add up to 111 or 120, how many strikes he landed. The other thing is with that style, he moves forward and backwards. Now, he started to do a little bit better. I think he started listening to his corner at one point towards the end of the first round. He started circling a little bit, but for the most part, he was going in and out. And that becomes a problem if your back is up against the cage, because you move in, you move back, and then you're up against the cage and you're getting taken down. So those are all the issues with Sage Northcutt. And I'm not sure what the solution is, but I don't think the UFC is worried about solving it right now because he's coming off a win and the kid puts butts in seats, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So, it may get to a certain point where they do feed him to Khabib and, just let him eat his face in there. I don't know. So that's that. There was a bunch of first round finishes on this card, Jeff. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first round finishes. Oh, 6, including the main event. I didn't catch much of the undercard. Is there anything you want to kind of give a rundown of? Is there anything I should go back and watch here?
Actually did not catch the undercard, but Bill, if there's one fight that I think you should go back and watch, it's if you didn't, it's Brandon Davis versus Steven Peterson. That was a really entertaining fight. It was really back and forth. Super fun to watch. Steven Peterson has this big Superman tattoo in the middle of his chest, so the commentators were saying that Davis is his kryptonite, which was pretty funny. But yeah, super entertaining fight, man. It looked like Peterson was gonna get knocked out in the third round. He had the stanky leg going,
Yeah.
and he stayed in it, man. Tough kid. I'd love to see him in there again. Both of these guys, I'd love to see them in there again. So definitely go back and check that one out if you haven't.
Yeah, I did catch that fight. It was pretty good. I liked it. It was a good war. One thing I've learned since moving to the South is that guys in the South will get literally anything tattooed on them. I don't know if there's like a lot of tattoo bets that go on down here, but I've seen some awful ink. Like I don't understand. Like, do people know that's on you forever?
People don't care, Bill.
um, but I don't know. Maybe it's a tattoo bet thing, or I don't know. But overall, this was a good card. If I have some time this week, I do want to go back and watch some of this undercard because it looks like it was really exciting. A lot of first round finishes. The next event we have coming up is UFC on Fox 28, and it's in Orlando, Florida, which is pretty close to me, but unfortunately I won't be able to make my way out there because I have a 6-year-old daughter at home. So I guess that that kind of takes priority over me going to sporting events 2 hours away. I would like I would like to go to this card though. This card looks pretty awesome. I have been to a UFC in Orlando before. There's a great story behind that, as you know, Jeff. But I'm saving that story for I think for when Nate Diaz has a fight booked, which we didn't talk about, Jeff. Right after Derrick Lewis's performance in Austin on Sunday night, they panned to the crowd and showed Nate Diaz put his name and his MMA record up on the screen, and then he holds up a monster of a joint and puts it in his mouth and pretends to light it. I mean, for those who don't know, weed is still very illegal in Texas. Especially in public places, especially a 9-pound joint. It was like a fucking cartoon, Jeff. That he so I don't know if he just doesn't care, if he's not planning to fight anytime soon. Like clearly USADA was at his house waiting for him when he got home after this. But you have to laugh when you see stuff like this. What I didn't like is when I saw headlines that said Nate Diaz lights a joint on camera. He very clearly didn't light it. He put it in his mouth and he held up the lighter and he flicked it. Like, don't exaggerate for your fucking clickbait headline. You want to be journalists. Anyway, thoughts on the joint, Jeff?
Bill, at first I was a little amused by it, and then I was like, dude, that's so unprofessional. I highly doubt that's how the UFC wants itself to be presented. And Bill, you know I'm a teacher, so as a teacher, I try to play by the rules, and you gotta be a certain way, and you gotta be super professional. Like I don't even tell the kids that I'm on a podcast about UFC and beer. So, I just thought it was a little unprofessional. And like you said, dude, I mean, I guess it's okay for him because he doesn't fight.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know how to feel about it because he does have that certain I don't give a fuck mentality. I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. Like, I don't think he's looking to be anybody's role model, but at the same time, you're in a job that's very public facing, and this was on free TV on a Sunday night. So does it discourage people from letting their kids watch or anything like that? And do you lose viewers? I think anything like that would probably be marginal. Like, I don't think there's going to be anyone boycotting the UFC over it. But yeah, it's definitely not a good look. Although I wouldn't be surprised. People seem to be boycotting everything else these days, which is something I want to get into, Jeff. Here's a little non-MMA current events. So last week, I found out they're releasing a Peter Rabbit movie, which Peter Rabbit is an old-time children's story about some rabbits that are harassing this farmer, and the farmer tries to get rid of the rabbits. So in the movie, I don't know if have you heard about this yet, Jeff? Peter Rabbit?
Probably not.
So people are boycotting this movie because in the movie, the farmer who's like the antagonist, the bad guy, is allergic to blackberries. So the rabbits, what they decide to do is they go get blackberries and throw them at the farmer, because they know he's allergic to them. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe that's just, their weapon of choice, whatever. So people took to the internet outraged. They're calling this allergy bullying, Jeff. And I just find it really hard to believe that I have to raise a daughter in a world where allergy bullying is a thing. Like, I understand the right to protest and everything like that, but it becomes kind of meaningless after a while. It's like, well, what are we protesting this week? Things like civil rights and the apartheid and women's right to vote. Like, these are things that warranted boycotting and protesting and like demanding for things to be changed, because it's a difference between right and wrong. I can't get on board with allergy bullying, Jeff. I don't know what your stance is on it, but I can't get behind this nonsense.
I don't know. I don't really know what to say, man. I mean, it's just a movie.
Yeah.
Um, I
You know what I say? Like if I don't like a movie or if I don't like the content of a movie, I don't watch the movie. And the other thing is, like, if this farmer's allergic to blackberries, why the fuck is he growing them in his garden?
that is also a fair point.
Like, he kind of deserves it at that point.
That's fair. And
Like,
like, hold on, how does the allergy work? Like, because usually when you're allergic to like fruit, you just can't eat it. So what do the
yeah,
rabbits gain by throwing them at him?
yeah, and I don't know, is he getting a rash if it gets on his skin, or are they going breaking into his house and force feeding it to him in his sleep? Like, and are fruit allergies gonna kill a grown adult? Like, if anything, it probably have like he'll wake up a little itchy or something. But I mean, it seems like it's getting to the point like what can you do to be creative and to put content out there, because it seems like it's being very limited. And you know, as a child of the 80s, I know I sound like an old man, like I can't be in support of this bullshit. Like, enough is enough. Like, save the boycotting and the protesting for causes that are worthy of it, because otherwise it really loses its luster. It's like you stop paying attention to it. Like, oh, what are we protesting this week? Oh yeah, all right, don't throw fruit at farmers. Okay, well, what's what's the next thing? Uh, you know. Um, in any case, let's get back on track to some MMA here. So, Fight Night on Fox from Orlando, Florida next weekend, headlined by Josh Emmett and Jeremy Stevens. Somebody's probably going to sleep in this main event. I love that this main event was made. I don't really understand why it was, but they're both coming off big knockout wins, and these are both knockout artists, and I'm excited for this fight. What about you, Jeff?
Definitely, dude. Emmett is scary, man. I mean, Ricardo Lamas is a tough dude, and for Emmett to just come in on like 2 weeks' notice or 2 days' notice, I forget what it was, and just knock him out, I'm worried for Jeremy Stevens, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a tough one. Jeremy Stevens is one of these guys that, like, right when you count him out, that's when he comes out of nowhere with a big knockout. That's what makes this fight so intriguing. Then I'm just gonna run down this card, Jeff, and you tell me what jumps out to you the most, because there's a lot that sticks out to me, and I can't narrow down a focus here, and I only want to talk about a couple of fights for the sake of time. So we got the co-main event, Jessica Andrade and Tisha Torres. We got Ovin St. Preux and Alir Latifi. We got Mike Perry, Platinum Mike Perry, and Max Griffin. Then we got Henan Barrow in there against Brian Kelleher. Marion Renault and Sarah McMahon, Angela Hill and Marina Moroz, Alan Joban and Ben Killaby Saunders, and then Gilbert Burns and Olivier Alban Mercier, Marcin Prochnino and Sam Alvey, and then Ronnie Yaya against Russell Doan. There's a lot of fights that are really interesting on here. So out of all the ones I just rattled off, Jeff, if you can only watch one, what are you tuning in for?
Oh, this is a tough one, man. I'm gonna go ahead and say Owen St. Preux versus Latifi because that skill matchup looks really interesting to me. Owen St. Preux, really solid grappling, even better striking, and Latifi grew up in Sweden, tough ass wrestler, and he's added striking. He's got power in his hands. So that is aside from the main event, that is the most interesting fight on this card to me.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting matchup because Latifi probably has the better wrestling credentials. I don't know if he's necessarily been able to translate his wrestling to MMA yet. He definitely has the pedigree. There's no denying that. I think he was on the Swedish national team. And Owen St. Preux is one of these guys who, when he's on, he's really on. And when he's not, he's really not. So you never know what you're going to get here. So both of these guys can end the fight with a knockout. If it ends in a submission, I would assume it's by St. Preux. I don't see St. Preux being able to take Latifi down because of Latifi's wrestling, but I don't see Latifi implementing an offensive wrestling game either. So if this fight does go to the ground, it's because of a knockdown by one fighter or the other. And yeah, a lot of interesting variables here. I'm excited for that one too. I'm always excited to watch Mike Perry these days. He's coming off the loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio, which was a crazy, bloody fight, and you couldn't even tell who was who in that fight because they both had beards and braids and the same colored trunks, I think. So that's a really exciting one. And Jessica Andrade and Tisha Torres should be a really badass fight. Jessica Andrade seems like a fucking world beater in this division since she moved down to strawweight. And Tisha Torres, her only loss was a decision loss to the champion Rose Namajunas. So I see this fight being really competitive, and I think it's really great and well deserving of a co-main event here. Jessica Andrade's last performance against Claudia Gadelha was just a one-sided beating. It was, she really thrashed her. So, and Tisha Torres has great wrestling. So, and she's coming off the win against Michelle Waterson. So I really like this fight, and I'm really excited for that one personally. But this card looks awesome, Jeff. Now that I've really kind of broken the surface of it, and we took a little bit of a deeper dive. Anything else catching your eye on here?
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to actually see Henan Barao. I'm excited for the Sarah McMahon fight. I love Sarah McMahon. She's awesome to watch in there. Like you said, the Andrade and Tisha Torres fight looks awesome. I think that if Tisha Torres looks anything like she did against Michelle Waterson, I think she's gonna really, really spark it up in there. Yeah, dude, this whole card looks really, really interesting. A lot of high level strikers, a lot of really good grapplers in here. So this is gonna be awesome. Even some of the Fight Pass prelims look good.
Yeah, I mean, would it be really wrong to get a babysitter at 6 weeks old? That's so I could go check out this UFC. It's probably a little soon, huh? uh, anyway, you got anything else you want to get off your chest this week, Jeff?
Yeah, Bill. So on a little bit of a sadder note, there was that school shooting in Florida about a week ago, man, and it really hit me when I was in the gym. I think the day after, I think it was Thursday, and I'm watching the news, and you know they were just kids, man, 14 years old, 15-year-olds. The one teacher who was trying to help kids get into his classroom and then lock the door, he got taken out. So it's super sad, man, and it makes me a little apprehensive to keep teaching and just to know that at one point something like that can happen. Actually, Bill, at the end of January, there was a school shooting about a block away from my high school because there's like a couple of other high schools near where I'm at. So it's crazy the times we live in, man. Because when I was in high school, the only thing I was thinking about was playing soccer, getting my homework done, and chasing tail. So it's crazy, man. Like I don't understand what goes through a person's head to be able to want to do something like that.
Yeah, it's hard to say what it is, what kind of cultural influences there are, but I gotta say, Jeff, I think we need teachers like you to stay out there and look for the warning signs for, when kids might be having a hard time at home or, they're going through some struggles. I don't feel like these things come out of nowhere, these terrible tragedies. I feel like we're so quick to try to sweep things under the rug and ignore the way people are behaving if it's out of the ordinary. But I think, we need to, as a society, we need to pay closer attention to people and and start taking care of one another a little bit more, and being a little bit more aware of the way people are behaving around us. And that goes for kids at school and grown-ups as well, because you never know what somebody's going through. Like, it all comes down to just be good to each other, because you never know what somebody's going through in their head. But terrible tragedy. So we definitely, our heart goes out to the victims and their families for sure. Um, and yeah, I don't really know what to say about it. Other than that, I know there are a lot of political conversations that could stem from this, but I think we'll just leave it at, our thoughts are with the victims and their families there. So, all right, great show, Jeff. So, I think we'll end it on that note. Unless you got anything else.
Hold on. Let's not end it on the doom and gloom, man. Life's too short for that. We gotta finish this. Like we said, our hearts go out to the victims and families. But to leave you guys on a positive note, Fergie messed up the anthem at the NBA All-Star game, which I didn't even know, because I didn't know that the NBA had an All-Star game. So I didn't care.
Yeah, that was the only reason I knew that game even happened. I don't know what the results were or who was in it, except for the guys that they showed in the video trying not to laugh while Fergie was singing. The best response I saw to it was Fergie did such a terrible job with the national anthem that Colin Kaepernick stood up and told her to stop because she was disrespecting the national anthem.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was the winner. Yeah, man, what is the NBA thinking too when we need a great singer for this All-Star game that's really going to draw some attention, and somebody was like, I know, Fergie.
They have don't they have like 3 other Black Eyed Peas members they could choose from? Come on now.
Yeah, probably any one of them would have been a better choice. Probably anybody dating one of the NBA players probably could have done better. Maybe like the lady selling hot dogs, tell her to throw her hairnet to the side and get out there and fucking belt out the national anthem. That might have been better. Yeah, she tried to do like a jazzy rendition of it. It was hard to listen to, man. I know some people come into her defense like, oh, wasn't that bad? Like, yeah, it fucking was.
Yeah.
it was not good. I mean, I'm no singer. So I don't feel like, I don't know. I don't know if I could do any better, but I don't know if I could do any worse. I would probably be really bad, but I wouldn't be like going viral bad. Like everybody in attendance would be like, oh, that wasn't that good, but they wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be all over the internet, so that's why I feel justified saying that she sucked.
That's fair. She may have broken the internet with her voice.
Yeah, she might have. All right, Jeff, we covered a lot. So if you want to reach out to us about fighting or allergy bullying or Fergie or Froggy vodka, please do so. You can reach Jeff at @animal_Wilson on Twitter. And you guys know how to get a hold of me, of course. It's at MMA on the Rocks, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere on the internet. Send me an email, MMAonTheRocks@gmail.com. Please download the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a review and shoot us a line. Let me know what you're thinking and drinking. Until next time, cheers, everybody. Goodbye.